You're watching Experience Comic Culture and Sales, streaming live daily to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
What's up, the internet? How's it going? This is In Stores This Week. It's a show where we talk about new books that are in stores this week. I am Kyle, and before we get into In Stores This Week, I wanted to relay a small piece of news that has been confirmed less than an hour ago. It has been confirmed that Jeremy Renner has gone home from the hospital after his terrible snow plowing accident. He confirmed in a tweet that he was able to watch season 2, episode 1 of The Mayor of Kingstown at home with his family. Why he would put himself through that kind of torture after having been in the hospital, I don't know, but good on him for getting out of the hospital. This is In Stores This Week. Welcome into In Stores This Week. I am producer Kyle. The one who just waved at you is Jay. Hashtag it's not that bad. And Dan, who just got done emptying all of the James Bond knowledge in his brain out on the screen with a great interview with Philip Kennedy Johnson.
He's a good interview.
Yeah, it was a great interview.
Yeah. He was able to answer all my stupid questions without them making him sound stupid. So
it was a killer interview, but needless to say, this is In Stores This Week, where we talk about books that are in stores this week, and we don't have a lot of books this week yet again. Noticeably absent, and I'm just gonna throw it out there. There are no Dynamite books this week because there are no Dynamite books out this week.
Right.
As I understand it, there will be a couple weeks in the near future where that's the case. Just because they're getting back on their schedule with some stuff that was delayed and some stuff that was shuffled. So there's a couple of Dynamite skip weeks, which always hurts us because we can usually count on them for 2 or 3 books. So just know that's a thing. So, all right.
Hey, John, hey, Diggs.
Yeah. Before we jump into this week's books, I wanted to ask you guys, Jay and Dan, because this is something we haven't talked about, and I was thinking about it during the 007 interview. Is there a book from the last year of doing this show together as a group that has stuck out to you as a high water mark for you? And for me, it's been the 007, right? And the reason being is that I'm not a huge James Bond fan. I like the movies, but I've never really cared for the books. I've never really, the comic books have been fine, but this run, Philip Kennedy Johnson's run that we've been reading and that you were talking about, really has been a high watermark for me in terms of making me interested in the James Bond mythos. Is there something from you guys that's going, you know what, that was a book that really, opened my eyes to something new or got me into something I'd forgotten I cared about or something like that?
Well, I think Philip's doing an amazing job on Bond. It really is some of the best stuff they've done at Dynamite. And I've really liked the stuff they've been doing at Dynamite. The current run on Bloodshot, Ninjak has always been my favorite character over there, but Bloodshot is like coming, yeah, right there now.
Yeah.
So
I got to agree. If it's series, it's got to be Bloodshot. Bloodshot and 007 have been 2 that have just been amazing.
Cool. That was what I wanted to ask. I couldn't help but think about, I didn't really care about James Bond until I started reading 007. So
yeah, I love how he gets into all the lore and the other 00s and stuff. But I mentioned that when we review the book, like that funeral scene right afterwards, that was such a big moment for me, and to see that it meant a lot to the Philip as well. But yeah, John, absolutely loving Bloodshot Unleashed.
All right, so let's jump into this week's books a little bit. We'll start off. We have White Savior #1 from Dark Horse Comics. It's a book with a title that gives you makes you take a second look for sure. But it's important to remember that this is a parody of the white savior gimmick trope that happens happens so much in Hollywood. I was gonna say so much in Tom Cruise movies, but I didn't want to call him out specifically, but it's true.
You mean like Iron Fist?
Tom Cruise wasn't in Iron Fist, Dan.
No, I'm saying as a white savior trope.
Oh, sure. But that always has been. Like,
Yeah.
I'm talking about Tom Cruise trying to play a Japanese samurai.
Wow. Yeah. Hey, it's better than Mickey Rourke trying to play the Asian upstairs neighbor in Breakfast at Tiffany's. Not Mickey Rourke, Mickey Rooney. Mickey Rourke would have been amazing.
Wow.
I wasn't going to say anything because I'm like, I don't know the correct answer, but I know it isn't the wrestler.
Mickey Rooney, not Mickey Rourke.
I'll be honest. You said Breakfast at Tiffany's, and my mind immediately went, and I said, what about
Breakfast at Tiffany's?
Right. Eat, Lose Something as opposed to the actual movie?
Yeah.
But Mickey Rourke playing an Asian. That'd be right up there with John Wayne as Genghis Khan.
Wait, didn't he... the character Mickey Rourke played in Iron Man 2
Was Russian. Ivan Vanko.
All right, I guess you can get away with that, even though I think that character was originally ethnically Asian. But go ahead. White Savior.
White Savior.
What'd y'all think?
This wasn't the book I expected it to be. It was very different. And I read it going, where are we going? I don't really know where we're going here. And I thought it was an interesting narrative choice to follow the guy like that, but I liked it. I just don't know why I liked it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's fair. That's fair. We had Scott Berman and Eric Wynn on Miss Jen's Talking Shop Monday, and lo and behold, we get to read the book. They talked it up. They did a good job talking it up. I was excited for it. I won't say that I was disappointed in it because I wasn't. I do like the book. I mean, it was humorous. Like even the editor's note. The editor's note was like, a funny little thing, and then there was like kind of a fourth wall breaky kind of dialogue in there. There's something about the main character though, and I don't know if it's because he feels like that friend you have that thinks he's cooler than he actually is. But I get that impression from this guy a little bit. So I mean, it's just a first issue. The next one could definitely change my mind. The art is very Dark Horse style art. And I found it interesting that they censor the curse words. Like a lot of books nowadays, they just let the words fly, but they censor the curse words in this one. Overall, I thought it was a good first issue, and the white savior guy, the actual white savior of the book, they did a good job of making him just the biggest tool bag I think I've ever seen. So overall, I liked it. I'm excited to read more of it.
It kind of reminds me of if in the 80s, Mel Brooks had written a samurai movie.
Yes.
Right. If Robin Hood Men in Tights was a samurai movie.
Yeah.
Right. Like everything has got 2 or 3 layers of, meta humor and then regular humor and then like dark humor on top of it. And the problem with that is that so much of that to me is in the delivery. I'll give you, when you watch like Robin Hood Men in Tights and, the Carrie Elwes turns and breaks the fourth wall and looks down, spikes the lens and makes a joke. It's the delivery. that sells that joke. The thing about this is that you have to do the delivery yourself in this book, which makes that humor harder to recognize. So sometimes stuff feels funny until 2 or 3 seconds later, you're a panel or two down and you're like, oh, that was a joke. There's a lot of way homers in this book that are very funny. You just don't get them immediately because you don't have someone going and delivering the joke to you, you know.
Yeah.
One of my favorite jokes, I'm rewatching Ted Lasso, and the character Jamie Tart says cheers to Ted Lasso, and he doesn't immediately recognize it as a greeting, and he responds with Night Court.
That's good.
If the Jamie Tart character doesn't stop and give a double take, you would miss the joke. And that's what happened here is I had to stop and give myself a double take in this to get the joke. By the way, not related to this book at all, but Night Court, the reboot, starts tonight on NBC.
And we're getting a more Mel Brooks soon with History of the World Part 2 of the series or whatever it is.
Yes.
Dan, can we confirm right now that you and I, and if Jay wants to join, are going to do a History of the World Part 2 recap episode of the Dan Wickline Show?
Sure.
Yes.
Yay!
I'm a little worried about it because I don't particularly like a lot of those actors that are in there. Like Nick Kroll, I find just kind of annoying.
But it's Mel Brooks.
It is Mel Brooks. Yes.
I find whatever the woman who was in Blazing Saddles and she was in History of the World Part 2 and I can't think of her name right now. Or History of the World Part 1. The blonde.
Oh my goodness.
Hold on.
Lily Von Stoop.
Yes.
Yeah. Madeline Kahn.
Yes. I find her kind of annoying in those movies. So it's okay, like if you're not all about Nick Kroll.
Yeah. I was just showing my nephew my favorite scene from Dracula Dead and Loving It, which is the mausoleum scene where Van Helsing and Jonathan Harker goes in to kill the girl because she's been infected, and it's like, you know, she's dead. No, she is Nosferatu. He's like, she's Italian? And then they had the blood gag, which is great. She's dead enough.
It's true.
That makes me miss Leslie Nielsen so bad.
That's very true too.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll have to do it before History of the World Part 2 comes out. We'll have to do a series of Mel Brooks rewatches.
Oh, I'd always be up for that.
Give me an excuse to dust off my collected works of Mel Brooks DVD box set.
I have that too.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think Men in Tights is actually in it.
It's not. I had to buy that one separate. I have a funny story, and then we'll get back to books from in stores this week. I had loaned my Mel Brooks box set to a girlfriend, and then we broke up, and I hadn't gotten it back. And I'm like, what do I do? And so I wound up going to her house and knocking on the door and being like, look, you can keep everything I ever gave you. I don't want any of my stuff back. I need my Mel Brooks box set. I'll wait on the porch.
Priorities.
Yeah, it's, you got to have it. So.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
All right. Speaking of something that Mel Brooks could have written.
It's very true.
Gru, Gods Against Gru, #2.
This book. I almost feel like you got to get out a whiteboard and make notes.
Or you have to take a mind-altering substance.
Yeah, that probably would help. This is one of the most meta, for the fact that it takes place in ancient times and in heaven and gods, and it is one of the most meta books I've come across in a long time. In just the whole, well, how do we get them out of heaven? Well, we have to make people not like them anymore. It's like the whole concept of how gods exist, and Oh man, I gotta admit, Sergio Aragonés just does such a great job and such a consistent job with this character over the years that his humor has never waned or gone out. It's just consistently great. So
Well, and the fact that I wanted to commend Mark Evanier for jumping in on this and like fitting in perfectly. You can't tell Mark Evanier is at all in part of this. It just feels like Sergio Aragon. So shout out to Mark Evanier.
yeah,
Well, I'll say it like this: it's a Sergio Aragonés book. If you're not a fan of his style, I don't think this book will change your mind. But for me, I happen to like it. I think it's silly, it's fun, and for new readers, as long as you know you're not going to get anything serious out of this, nothing at all. As long as you know that, I think you can still have a good time with it. What I love about Gru, the character, is that he has so much fun battling. Like, he loves fighting. And it's just putting him up against gods as a god himself. The whole thing was hilarious to me because it's like, didn't I just kill you twice? Didn't I kill you 4 times? Didn't I kill you 6 times already? And he's just fighting and fighting and fighting. And I think it was brilliant to do that. Just basically make him immortal and the people he's fighting are immortal and they just fight. I really enjoyed this one.
I have to disagree with you for just a second there, though, Jay, because you said you're not going to get anything serious out of this, and I beg to differ because you're in for some serious fun.
Oh,
hey,
nice, Dad.
Yeah, it's right in the pocket for a Gru book. There's been some Gru books recently that have been a little bit kind of out of the sweet spot for Gru. This is right where it needs to be, lined up every time. And you know what's fun, and it reminded me when I looked at the solicitation for this book, lettered by Stan Sakai. So now I want Gru Yojimbo crossover.
Yeah.
Again. So just throwing that out there. If you hear me, great. If not, whatever. We will move on from that. Kyle, quick question. Are you guys going to be at MegaCon? I have no idea. Should I be? Where is MegaCon? When is MegaCon? What is MegaCon?
MegaCon is Florida.
I have rules about the state of Florida.
No, the state of Florida has rules about you.
That is also true. We're not saying they aren't mutually differential.
You just go down and hang out with Jimmy and Amanda. You'll be fine.
Well, see, that's my problem is if I go to Florida, I have to be promised, 1, that I get to witness a Florida man encounter. 2, I have to be promised that I will be nowhere near an alligator at any time because dinosaurs were meant to be extinct. And 3, I can only go during the winter months because I can't handle the humidity. The first 2 are negotiable. All right. Barbaric number 1, Hell to Pay.
This series has grown on me, but I don't get it. It's like they're kind of doing the Zenoscope thing of we're just going to put out a lot of number 1s. But it's a continuing story.
I think the problem is, Dan, that we only get the number 1s. There were 5 issues in the previous series.
Really?
Yes. There have been 2 volumes of trade paperbacks of Barbaric.
Yep.
Okay. Because I pretty sworn it was picked up from where the Owen was taken to hell the last time we saw it.
Right. But then the rest of that volume, like, it was just a thing that had happened.
Well, what are you doing to us? Why don't you just give us the books?
Exactly.
We talk about them, and we like this one a lot.
Yes.
I actually enjoy this one. the characters are crazy, and I enjoy the talking axe.
Yes.
So
Yeah, I've been a fan of this one since it started.
by the way, do you think the axe says axe?
Like,
The
I'm going to
axe
ask you a question?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Dan asking the tough questions. You know, you have an interview with Philip Kennedy Johnson, and all of a sudden, no, I've like I said, I've been a fan of this one since the first set of stories. I love the axe. Owen is awesome. The other side characters, Steele and Soren, to me, they're well written. They bring something to the stories. The art is good. To me, these are always, action packed, gory, and the humor lands with me. I like the adventure that we start out with at the beginning of this book, but it's the story in the last few pages that I'm really excited for. Like I need to add this one to my pool because we were pulling this, but I need to make sure this is on there because this is really good.
I changed to my favorite cover. It's the 1 in 10 variant. I just decided I wanted to change.
Who did that cover?
Howell is the last name. Corin Howell.
It's good.
Yeah.
Fish people, Jay. She's sitting on fish people.
From the Zenoscope book.
They're fish people. I really thought that Jay was going to have problems with this book because I thought one of two things. It's going to be fish people or it's going to be Cthulhu-y.
Nope.
And when it was neither thing, I'm like, all right, we're in.
Nope.
I really do. I enjoy the talking axe. I wish I'm starting to struggle with the talking axe's talk bubbles with the lettering.
Mm.
I'm beginning to find it slightly grating. I would appreciate a switch maybe to the regular lettering and a different color or something on the talk bubbles. I don't know. I don't know how to fix that. It's literally just a me problem, and I recognize that. I thought this book was as funny as all the other ones. It had the same kind of good feeling to it, same kind of movement. And anytime you see a talking axe go to hell, I have a hard time not buying that. So I'm good with it. Okay. TMNT, the Armageddon game number 4.
Or also known as the waiting game, because we've been waiting for things to happen. And I'm not sure if they have started yet or not. A few things happened, but we got 2 books in this, so it's hard to tell which one they were in anymore. It's all just kind of a blur. Yeah. I think this might be one that I should just wait for the trade and just let it read. But it's I don't know what Shredder is doing with Leonardo. That's getting kind of weird. There's a whole thing going on over there. But it did feel like the Raphael storyline with Hobb actually got us going somewhere, which was nice. But yeah, this is that book, right? This was the Hobb Raphael book?
Yes.
Okay. So if it's good but it's issue 4. It shouldn't be, it seems like we're going someplace. We should be chock deep into this is happening, and we're just now getting moving. So, yep. On to you guys.
When I saw this and saw it was only issue 4, I was like, this is only issue 4? I need to start making a character sheet because I'm starting to, I'm so lost, and that's not the fault of the book really as much as it is my own, because I don't know a lot of these people. But I mean, there's so many people that get introduced in these books, and you know, I can't even tell you what's happening in the story. Uh, that's not to say that this is bad by any means. I get lost super easily. Like, it doesn't matter if it's one character or 20 characters. I get lost very easily. And again, it's probably going to be collected for me too, because maybe it's just too much time passes between when I read the issues that I have a problem with. But I will say this: if you've been following along, get this one, because again, it's not that it's a bad story. It's just personally I'm lost. So
Yeah, I spent a lot of time hyping up the Armageddon game leading up to it. Everything was pointing to this was going to be a big thing. And it still could be. But it has a long porch. Taking forever to get where it's going. And that, to me, is a huge problem. I think the story, I think it has all of the potential to really reinvigorate the Ninja Turtles story. But it also has all of the potential to absolutely kill it. And being 4 issues of the mini-series with the title in, and more of your action as it relates to the Armageddon game is coming in the spin-off books or the ancillary books, is hugely problematic. Like Dan said, the Hobbs story was good in this. It's finally starting to see some steps. But you've waited so long that as a Turtles diehard, I'm going, I don't know. And if I'm the guy going, I don't know, you have a problem.
Would that make me a turtle die easy?
That's fair.
Yeah. By the way, before we jump on the next book, Ed, I just want to acknowledge, I saw your post in the last show about the dog with the crocheted ears to replace his ears. I think that was amazing. I just didn't get a chance to acknowledge it in that show because of the interview.
Did you guys know I have a Turtles piece of art right here?
yes,
It's the
'Cause I think
it's the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Ghostbusters,
Mhm.
and the Ghostbusters are busting the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And the artist who did this, Gavin Smith, has a variant cover out on this book. Yeah, I was gonna bring it all back around. I wasn't actually bragging. I just was like, his cover is the B cover of this book. So, all right. TMNT number 136. This is the Armageddon game tie-in.
Casey Jones is not in it.
Correct.
Can I sue for false advertisement?
Yes, I would have been happy to see Casey. Again, this is just a continuation of the Armageddon game. We get a little more time with Donatello. And I mean, for God's sakes, at least I'm at a point now where I recognize the Turtles. That's actually an improvement for me. But we get Donatello and the dinosaur lady that they're protecting, and the female turtles involved.
Jenica?
But there's no Casey Jones, even though he's on the cover.
Yeah. I don't think I'm cut out to read turtle books, if I'm being honest, at least not from the point that we started. I was okay with the beginning of this, and then we time traveled, and then there was like an alien shark, and then a whiteout page, Then we're with the Utroms, like Krang and them. So Krang shows up and challenges Chirel, and that's all I got. Like, I think it's a personal project for me now to start at the beginning of Ninja Turtles books so I can understand a little more of how these stories go, because I want to love this stuff. I really want to love these books, but I think my own ignorance when it comes to comic book turtles kind of hinders me at doing it.
Alien shark doo 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 doo. Alien shark doo 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 doo.
If this had been a not Armageddon game tie-in book, it would have been the Kang army invades Mutant Town. But because it's Armageddon game, they have to layer it in 6 or 7 layers of stalling. It feels like, and that's what this was. That's what this felt like. The Utrum, we've seen them for years. We know what these brain-looking alien whatevers are. We know how they work. Giving Jenica some more story. Giving what's her name? Or Venus some more story. Giving what do you call it? Siri the Triceratops some more story. Or Shuri the Triceratops some more story. It's good, but it isn't pushing anything along. And if you're someone like me who's dragged his friends into the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on the promise that Armageddon game was going to be something, you're starting to look like a fool. I thought it was a fun action book. I thought it was cool. It's more traditional Turtles than we've gotten from some of the other stuff. But in the middle of the Armageddon game with the Armageddon game badging right on the cover, you can't miss, and you did. So
it's the Armageddon tired of all this. Yeah.
Nice.
I thought we agreed we'd leave the puns to me. Anyway, Sonic the Hedgehog, Scrapnik Island #4.
I'm sad it's over. I was enjoying this series. We get our resolution. We get the happy kumbaya moment. It's all good. It's all good on the island. This has been a lot more fun than I expected it to be.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dan threw this at us because I keep saying we need to have lighter books. We need to have Archie and, other kind of stuff. And he's like, okay, I'm going to throw a Sonic at you. And then we all loved the Sonic.
Yes. Yes. Like, life lessons with Sonic. Wow. Like, this series has just been so good. I'm always excited to see this one on the list. This issue was amazing. It hit all the points for me. It had action. It had heart. There was even a few panels that had no dialogue, but the art told the story. And I love that, because I'm a very firm believer that sometimes, let the art speak. You don't have to have word bubbles and thought bubbles and all that stuff all the time. And this one did it. And I love how the ending was positive. There was a heavy theme in this one of not finding yourself worthy, that I think the team on this book handled beautifully. If you're a Sonic fan, or even if you're not a Sonic fan, pick this one up and give it a shot. It was really good.
I have one complaint. It kind of felt like the ending was the Disney Channel ending. Gee, Sonic, you've taught us all a little something about friendship. Right, like I think that line was in there. Basically. I don't need you to tell me that line, to feed me that line. Like it felt a little bit like they were, okay, if you're a child reading this, we're going to sum it up for you. Now, I recognize that a child might have been reading this and needed it summed up for them, but that's my one complaint.
It was the friends we made along the way.
Right, exactly. It's our differences are what make us each special. Like, it kind of felt like a Davy and Goliath kind of.
Hey, Davy, I want you to kill your parents. What?
The Mad TV version.
Right. But that's my only complaint with the whole series. I think it was a great series. I just wish at the end they wouldn't have.
You wanted the robot to die, didn't you?
No.
You wanted kids traumatized because he fell to his death.
No, I didn't. I wish they wouldn't have little kidded up the dialogue. I don't mind the ending. I don't mind the way they ended it. I just wish the dialogue had been less. It felt clunky to me. So. All right. Next book.
Thank you, Ed. That's adorable. Ed sent me the picture and story that goes with the dog getting his crocheted ears.
Oh.
All right. Actually, before we do the next book, Dan, what's coming up on in stores this week, or not in stores this week, on the Dan Wickline show this week?
Tomorrow we're going to talk to Fabrice Sapolsky about Fair Square Comics, the stuff they've got coming up. They've got some books coming out, and after they got jerked around a bit by the distributor, so we definitely want to get the word out there. So please tune in and find out what the great books coming out from Fair Square. And then on Thursday, we will catch up on the news, since I'm doing interviews 2 days in a row. We'll catch up on the news, and we'll talk about the series premiere of The Last of Us and why Jay was apologizing to me this morning.
It's true. All right, Jay, do you have any Triangle of Truth stuff? And then what's happening on Space Cadets this week?
We just had Sean release the video talking about Red 5 Comics. Check out Red 5 Comics. They make great stuff. For Space Cadets, always crazy. I never know exactly what they're going to talk about. Most of the time, neither do they before they get started. But they're talking about a bunch of BBC shows like Nevermind the Buzzcocks, QI, The Great British Bake Off, Bridgerton, Sherlock. They didn't watch it on air, but they watched the Barbie trailer, and they actually have a discussion about the Barbie trailer. So a lot of fun, a lot of craziness. Check it out on Thursday after What's in the Box.
I've been watching a new BBC panel show, Taskmaster.
That's the other one they talk about.
I've heard of that, yeah.
That game makes me itch. And I will say this, they just had a series of 8 out of 10 Cats Does Countdown, which is the first one since Sean Locke passed away. And it is not the same. And he is sorely missed. So I love BBC panel shows. I'm just throwing that out there. Producer Kyle is doing an ill-timed, poorly thought out Doctor Who rewatch. In that I don't have time to rewatch all of Doctor Who before the new Doctor starts, but I'm sure going to try. And so I'll be looking for content about that over on the Experience website, theexplive.com, under the blogs section. The first blog should go up end of the week.
Nice.
So I forgot how many episodes during that first season of David Tennant's run. I can't stand. All right. Dune.
First, I know Kyle's not going to like this because of one of the writers on it. He's got a personal anger towards. But this was kind of an interesting issue in that it starts off almost like a domino thing. It's like, well, we got a little snippet of a story here, and that hits into this story here, and they're loosely connected. Then this one bounces into another story, and another story, another story, another story. But as you get to the end, we get to the early days of some of the major characters involved in House Atreides. You know, we end up seeing a young Duke Leto. We see a young Duncan Idaho before he goes off to sword training, and we see like a 12 or 14-year-old version of Jessica long before she ever meets Leto. So if you are a fan of the recent movie and stuff and want to see some stories that take place before the movie, this is kind of filling in the background on some of the major players of the House Atreides. Even though it's called a House of Harkonnen, it is leaning heavily into House Atreides, also House Vernius, which is no longer around, we find out. But I really liked it. I was a little surprised by the art. It was a little more cartoonish than I expected. But overall, I actually really like this, and I love that cover. I would love just to get that without the trade dress on a T-shirt or something. That is just cool.
So I need to watch the Dune movie. I really do. The only one I've ever seen is the one with Kyle MacLachlan. I really need to watch this because, so for me, this read like an episode of Game of Thrones, but one of the episodes where there's like a ton of setup and a lot's happening, but nothing's happening at the same time. I was very surprised when I got done reading this and found out that this was a 24-page book because it felt so much longer than that to me. I'm hoping in the next issue, maybe they don't go with this style of the storytelling. I'm hoping maybe this is just a setup issue. Overall, I can see me liking this, but this one did kind of bore me a little bit.
Yeah, I don't think it's any well-kept secret that I'm not a fan of Dune. The thing I'll say for this book is that when you have no interest in the characters, very little interest in the backstory, very little interest in the universe, splitting it up into these smaller sections that this book was split into, where it's, okay, this is your location and this is what's happening, and this is your location, and this is what's happening, helps. This book held my attention better than many Dune books have. So I think it has that going for it. And knowing now what Dan has said and what Jay has said about how it's kind of a setup to this thing that's a more established Dune mythos, I'm interested in this story in that maybe it can change the way I feel about Dune. Nothing will ever change the way I feel about Kevin J. Anderson. But if you can get me into the series, then that's another set of books that I would be interested in reading. So I liked everything about this book in that it gave me bite-sized bits that led me where you wanted me to go without losing my attention. And now that you've got me where you kind of wanted me to go, keep going, kind of, and giving me small little bits that I don't have to understand too much of what's happening. I can just understand it section by section. So,
and if you want to parallel to the movies, that last scene where the guy gives the sword to the other guy, that's Oscar Isaac giving the sword to
Jason Momoa.
Jason Momoa.
okay.
See, I didn't watch it, but I knew Momoa was Idaho.
Yeah.
Census number 5.
I like this book, but it feels like, I mean, we missed one. Number 3. We read number 4, but it feels like we missed like 6 books in between.
Yeah.
It's like suddenly he's declaring love and I don't know where all this came from, but he's in trouble with his boss. And when did all that happen?
Yeah.
But I said, I like the book. I like the art. It's good overall. But man, I got confused. But I do love him sitting in prison.
Yeah, that was funny.
Yeah.
That's the first thing I thought when I opened this up. I was like, either I missed an issue, or it's been that long since we've read the last one, because this felt so different than all the other issues that came before it. Where he had that really short case he was working on, and then he had like the longer case he would go throughout the book. And this one just felt longer. And I don't know if that's because they just packed so much story into this one or what, but I almost felt like I was reading the end of an almost completely different story. And it does end on a cliffhanger, kind of cliffhanger-ish. And to be honest, I did have fun reading this one. And if they do decide to do, a second part of the story, I'd definitely be down to read it. But this one, I'm going to have to read the whole thing over again. It's like I said, it really does feel like for a book that's only 5 issues, it felt like we missed 3 or 4, like Dan said. So
See, and I don't think we actually missed any.
I missed the third one, but yeah.
We may have, but I don't think we did. I think what happened is that stuff that felt like blow-off moments in previous issues actually weren't, and it all kind of came to a head in this issue. We had seen the main character start to freelance and kind of not do things the way his boss wanted him to do them over the last couple of issues, at least in issue 4. I remember that. And there was the issue with the Baba Yaga where, he kind of was like, hey, we can solve 2 problems here. Where he was kind of freelancing. And so to have it all come to a head where he's getting fired because he's doing a thing that it goes against the rules, and then, he goes to hell when he gets fired, and he's got this other thing, and like it all kind of builds up. It makes sense as it's like, okay, we've crossed a tipping point. I thought the humor was really good in this book. I thought that maybe the main character was a little bit blasé about stuff that maybe he shouldn't have been based on previous issues. But, when you're dead, what's that line? The dead don't really care about where they go to the bathroom. So you kind of have that. To try to focus it on the love story felt weird, but the fact that it's not necessarily that, leading into what might be a second series, feels all right to me. So I really enjoyed this book. I thought this was a good conclusion to a part 1, and that we definitely need a part 2 coming out of it. So, all right. The next book, was I here when we read the first one?
Yes.
Are you sure?
I'm sure.
yeah.
None of us liked it that much.
That probably explains a lot.
And I don't think I would have put it on the list, but we were really short on books this week. So, yeah, this one, I will say I liked it a little better than the first issue because it's starting to explain some stuff, or at least moving forward. The whole premise is this girl suddenly finds herself in maybe a parallel Earth or something, where her friends don't know her. No, everything about her life is gone, and she can suddenly transform into some kind of powerful creature, which is not very attractive. It's almost like her skin peels back and she looks like one of the characters from They Live, one of the aliens from now.
Yeah. Okay.
But there is something interesting going on, and there is an overall arc we're starting to see, and it's what you expect from Colin Bunn. You expected a more grounded story, but more something to follow, where the first one seemed just kind of all over the place. Still not loving it, but I liked it better than the first one. So,
Yeah. I honestly forgot about this one until I got to the first panel and the shot. I was like, oh, okay. I remember reading this one. And I'll say it again. What a weird book. This book is just so strange to me. I did, however, spot like a cameo from some Riverdale kids. I thought that was kind of cool. I was like, that's kind of the most random thing you can do, but why not? I like the fight scenes. I like the gore. And the story for me is getting kind of interesting. The art definitely is not my cup of tea, though. But it is what it is. The story is good enough for me. The art doesn't really bring me down that much. Now, we do find out in this issue why Casey's friends don't recognize her. And, not to be spoilery at all, but this is a different universe where a Casey variant had existed at one point in time or whatever, or in this neighborhood or whatever. I don't know. I just think that the multiverse stuff is going to wear thin very fast if it hasn't already. But for this, I'm in the same boat, Dan. I liked it more than the first one. I don't love it. But if the story keeps picking up like it has, like it did in this one, I think I might be able to get behind it. So, liked it, didn't love it.
I think I would have liked it more instead of the Riverdale kids if it was the Rivendell kids.
Legolas.
Don't remember the first one. Didn't like the second one. Probably won't read the third one. Wasn't for me. I like the idea that Comixology is letting some of these guys like Cullen Bunn and Jeff Johns stretch their legs. Try some new stuff. Sometimes that stuff should maybe have not been tried. The first person to wrap an olive in sausage and then batter it and deep fry it was looked at crazily until they made Scotch olives. Now, you're going to hit some home runs every once in a while. This is not it.
Not everything can be deep fried. Just saying.
That is correct.
Well, everything can be deep fried. It's should you deep fry everything?
Are you quoting Jurassic Park? You were so busy worrying about if you could, you didn't think of it. You should.
A little bit.
John says that Cullen Bunn has too many books out. I disagree with that statement. Especially because so many of his books are so solid. However, the ones that aren't are big misses. And I think, again, he's trying something new here. He's trying to kind of find a lane, and he missed. And that happens in creative ventures. That happens all the time. Look at the list of shows that aren't on the Experience anymore. For an example, sometimes you just don't find your lane. And this is one of those.
What? Oh no, I think sometimes I think sometimes maybe he does spread himself too thin, though.
Oh, certainly, and who isn't guilty of that?
Yeah.
But I really don't think that it's because he's writing so much that book doesn't work. I think it's other things that cause that particular book to not work. So, stay tuned immediately following this show for Minute to Skim It. I don't know who's reading this week. Jay, who's reading?
I think it's Jenna and Miss Jenna. Or Miss. See, mix that up. Miss Jen and Jenna.
There you go. Tonight on Minute to Skim It. And then following them is Mint Hunter He's doing an everything's under $50 sale.
I hope he finds all the mint he wants.
I just assume you walk down the candy aisle at the store. Anyway, Mint Hunter is up next after Minute to Skim It. And then at 9:30, we have Country Roads Comics with Chris Antebello. Then tomorrow, Dan will be back with Fabrice Sapolsky of Fair Square. We'll have John and Rex will be back with the Comic Collectibles show. And all of our other great Wednesday shows, including Pop Go the Writers and Wednesday Warriors and Kicking It with Henri. I put too many G's in Kicking It. And then Dan will be back Thursday to talk about why The Last of Us isn't good. And maybe I can convince him if I come on the air to talk about Night Court instead. So we will see everybody later this week on The Experience. Head over to your local comic shop. If you don't know where the local comic shop is nearby to you, visit comicshoplocator.com. They have been a sponsor of The Experience since day one, literally. And so go over to the website, find comic shops nearby to you by typing in the area code where you are, and then visiting the shops that it recommends. So there's that. Anything else, anybody?
Nope.
All right. Then we will see everybody next time on In Stores This Week. Join the party. Head over to our link tree to find all the links for everywhere The Experience is all the time.